How's it going, lads? It's the Bald Boomer Biosparks. BlizzConline 2021 definitely had a lot of news concerning TBC Classic, and it only takes a little browse around the various internet forums, Reddit, and YouTube to see people praising, lamenting, or going into complete meltdowns regarding what was revealed, with all the major headlines revolving around paladin seals, level boosts, leatherworking drums, fresh servers, and so on. However, I think something was overlooked because of all the other major headlines, which gives us some clues that we're actually going to see quite a different arena system to what we had back in 2007 once Season 1 launches. Just before we start, I just want to say a massive thank you to those of you that subscribed recently, as well as those from the very beginning. This channel has absolutely exploded since I last posted my level 60 to 70 launch week guide, with the subscriber count quadrupling to over 2,000 and the amount of viewers increasing by over 4,000%. And that was in no small part thanks to Stay Safe and his community, who highlighted 2 of my videos on his stream on Twitch TV, which just catapulted my channel into YouTube's recommended algorithm, so I definitely want to extend my thanks to him and his community. Since I've received a lot of video requests and topics, I just want to let those who are new here know that I work as a full-time teacher and we're in the middle of transitioning from online-based learning to returning back to school during this crazy and chaotic COVID pandemic. This YouTube channel was made when I was bored during the summer holidays, and it became a little hobby I enjoyed in my spare time, in which I don't earn a single penny from at the moment. I hope you will understand that I will in most cases only upload a video once a week, and occasionally twice if I have the time. At the end of the day, I'm just a guy who played way too much Burning Crusade back when he was 15, and loves to talk about it just a little too much, but I'm just humbled that people spend their time to hear what I have to say. But in any case, that's enough stalling from me, it's time for today's video. Firstly, let's have a look at our first clip from BlizzCon, which gives some clues about how the arena system will be changing.
Is that when we did personal ratings versus team ratings?
I think that came later, and we're also considering whether or not we want to do something with that as well. Because another thing that was problematic about arenas was the way that the ELO system was so inflationary. And so we're talking about whether or not we want to move forward with converting that to something more like the modern MMR system, so that it isn't as punishing to people in terms of like waiting hours for a match at the highest levels and things like that.
So from this clip, Brian Birmingham is stating there is some clear intent from Blizzard to move away from the ELO system that was originally used for the arena and opt for an MMR system instead. It also looks like personal rating, which was used in later seasons to make sure a player was eligible to buy a piece of arena gear that was gated behind a rating check, might get removed as well, but we'll have to wait for more information on that. What does this change mean for PvPers who want to participate, and how does it affect them? So the ELO system was something that was originally in place, which had a set scale from 0 to 3000 rating. To sum it up briefly, you would have the vast majority of teams that would range from 1400 to 1600 rating, and the higher your team climbed the ladder, the fewer opposing teams were up there with you. The important thing to understand about the ELO system is that it only cares what the rating of the team is and not the individual players. This meant that teams that broke the 2000 rating mark would normally either face teams that were slightly below and slightly above them. However, those that pushed towards the very top of the ladder, let's say around 2400 rating, they would generally only play teams that were at a rating substantially lower than them, because there were just so few teams that were around the same rating as them, and they weren't necessarily participating in the arena at the same time of day. This normally caused very long queues for the highest ranked teams, and a win would grant somewhere between 3 to 5 rating. However, if that 2400 rating team lost a match to a team far below them, they could easily lose 24 rating. This created a demand for players at the top to be very good with extremely high win rates against teams that were generally a few levels of skill below them. This resulted in wins granting 3 rating after every game, but if they lost one match they could lose 24 rating, which meant you literally just lost all that time and progress that you made in the last 8 matches, which can be absolutely devastating, and I'm sure many Burning Crusade players back in the day probably still have PTSD from that experience. Now the main drawback of the ELO system is that it was designed for 1v1 scenarios. A game like chess uses this system most widely, and it is used to try and accurately predict who would win between 2 players, and it's useful in chess tournaments to match players of similar skill. Using this system in the arena matches, however, is very difficult, because you have the 2v2 bracket, the 3v3 bracket, which is obviously and undeniably the best bracket, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise, 100% unbiased opinion by the way, and the 5v5 bracket. On top of this, you have 9 different classes participating, which all have their own viability in what different team compositions they can play. So having all these variables in the arena with a simple ELO system that was originally created for 1v1s is clearly quite flawed. Now if we look at the MMR system that Blizzard is looking to implement, it has a distinct advantage over ELO because of the fact that it takes into account the impact and ability of every single member of the team. MMR is a hidden rating that the game applies to you as an individual, which can then be applied to all members of the team and give them an average MMR rating to predict where their rating should be. The MMR system is constantly trying to find where a team belongs, so that they are competing against players where it predicts a 50% win ratio based on their skill. Here's a clip by X-Scoundrel who explains the MMR system much better than I ever could.
MMR is a system that is designed to get out of that 1v1 scenario. The ELO system was designed for 1v1 games, and it was so easily applied across multiple platforms. But when it came to team games, it found it very difficult to predict the outcome because it could not weigh the individual impact of a team member on the overall outcome of a game, and that's where MMR came into play. MMR is a modified ELO system designed to take individual inputs of your own personal MMR and make a prediction for you based on the overall or the average MMR of each team. So if you were the 1900 member here and you're going into a game where the average MMR is floating around 1600, you would gain a lot less for the win because you were predicted as an individual to win. However, if you as an individual at 1100, like the bottom chap on the left, he gets a lot more MMR for the win because he was predicted to lose. He was much lower than the average MMR of the team. So this makes individual predictions based on your particular impact in a team game. And this is especially useful in team games where you are playing with people that you don't know or don't have a team synergy with. And this is why the MMR system is used in online games like League of Legends, like Dota, and like Vainglory, because it weighs your individual input in a team game. So it's designed to go past that ELO system that is a flat outcome from the result and tailor the results to impact you as an individual.
So with a more modern MMR system implemented, we will see the situation we had in arenas back in 2007 shift to a scenario where players will be matched with those of similar skill. Okay, so that's enough explanation about the system, because you're probably thinking right now, but Biosparks, how exactly does this affect me as a player in my arena team? Well, what will likely happen is we will still have team ratings that range from 0 to 3000 to determine how many arena points you get each week, but the MMR system will be hidden in the background to decide which teams get matched together. Here's a clear example. Let's say a team of players who are around 2200 MMR make a new team and start off back at 1500 rating. Now, even though their team rating is only 1500, their MMR makes them play matches against other teams that are around 2200 MMR. What will happen is if the newly made team at 1500 beats the 2200 rating team, then they will jump up, let's say, plus 50 rating, because their team rating is much lower than where they should be, and the MMR system is trying to get them where they're supposed to be, which is around 2200. However, for the team that lost, because they lost to a team that had the same MMR of 2200, they would only lose minus 15 rating, even though the team rating they lost against was 1500. As you can imagine, if this scenario played out in a flawed ELO system, then the team that lost would have lost an incredible amount of rating, even though they were playing against a team that was of equal skill. Ultimately, what this does is make the arena much more competitive and less punishing for teams that are high rated that lose to equal skilled opponents who just happen to have a lower team rating. On top of this, because the MMR system is actively trying to match teams of equal skill against each other, players will experience less queue times, especially because of the fact that servers will not be split into battle groups in TBC Classic. It will be one huge region-based battle group, which creates a much larger pool of players to compete in the arena. This also ties in with the next change to the arena system. Let's take a look at the second clip at BlizzCon.
In Burning Crusade, how will PvP titles such as Gladiator, Duelist, and Rival be determined, considering we don't have established battle groups? And I got a little follow-up to that, depending on what you say.
Sure. I mean, that's a really good question, and that comes from, like, originally there was an award for the top player in each battle group, and that really came from the fact that we had technical restrictions where people playing on different, like,
hardware installations, like different data center sites couldn't play with ones playing in other data center sites. And we actually don't have that restriction anymore. You can actually matchmake players across the entire region. And so we think a more fair way to approach this today is to just do a small percentage of people at the very top. We do want to award it to more than like one person, but still a very exclusive title.
The rewards for the top players are very prestigious. You're given a Gladiator title that very few people will have, and you'll receive a Nether Drake that flies at 310% increased speed, which pretty much makes it best in slot for gathering professions, especially for paladins with Crusader Aura that will give them 330% increased speed, which is ridiculously fast. Originally, this reward was reserved for the top 0.5% of teams, which I believe will still remain the same in the region-based battle group. However, the most elite and prestigious titles of all were the named Gladiator titles. Some of you will remember them as the Merciless Gladiator, Vengeful Gladiator, and Brutal Gladiator for Season 2, 3, and 4 respectively. These titles were for the rank 1 team in the entire 2v2, 3v3, and 5v5 brackets in their battle group. So only 13 teams would have received this title in their respective brackets in North America, and 16 teams in Europe 13 years ago. Now, the question here is, how exactly is Blizzard going to handle this if the entire region is in one battle group? Well, this is what I think is going to happen. Just so we can visualize some numbers to create an example, we can use Europe, which approximately has 132,000 active raiders from Ironforge.pro. Hypothetically, if they all made a 3v3 team, which will be the most popular bracket, you'll end up with 44,000 teams. Now, 0.5% of that will have the top 220 teams eligible for a Gladiator title, and the top 0.1% will have 44 teams that will earn a named Gladiator title, which is quite a lot more compared to the 13 or 16 teams in North America and Europe that we had 13 years ago. But before we get ahead of ourselves, this number assumes that everyone in that pool of players will participate, which obviously won't be the case, since not everyone is interested in the arena, which means that the number of Gladiator titles will also be lower than the numbers we just used. Which is why my prediction is we're going to have the same system as retail WoW, where the top 0.1% will earn the named Gladiator title. So as you can imagine, if it's only the top 0.1% of players to get the named Gladiator title, even if there is a huge pool of players, there still aren't that many spots to get it, which will create a very competitive environment at the top of the ladder. The only other thing that could also change is just how high will the team ratings go. With the new MMR system being implemented in one huge battle group with a massive pool of players, it begs the question, just how competitive will arena players be in 2021? Will we have a team that manages to hit the 3,000 rating cap? Probably not, but it will certainly be much higher than we saw arena team ratings back in 2007. Because with the combination of player skill, min-maxing team compositions, a huge player pool, and the competitive drive to be the best being higher than ever before, what I do know is that we will definitely have 4 very intense arena seasons waiting for us in the Burning Crusade Classic. So in summary, the arena looks like it's going to have an MMR system replacing ELO to consistently match equal skilled opponents and lower queue times to increase competitiveness. The named Gladiator titles will become available to the top 0.1% of teams instead of just the rank 1 teams. And finally, with a huge pool of players from a region-based battle group and improved match-finding technology, team ratings will become much higher on average than they were back in 2007. And that is all for now. I'm curious how you think these changes will affect the arena system. Let me know in the comments below. This is the Bald Boomer Biosparks, signing out. Catch you lads next time.